Okay, welcome back. We left off, we were figuring out how to refetch. So you pass it in, and what you have to do is pass it, refetch an object, but you have to put these array brackets in there. Let me get the cursor out there so you can see it. And you know what? I really think I should have zoomed in my screen. Maybe this helps with the video. I forgot, I like my code kind of small, um, so I can see a lot of it, but for the video, this might be better. So anyway, you pass in this refetch, but it has to be an array because you can do multiple queries here. So some queries would have params or variables rather. So you can pass in a variables option, into some queries like that. And then since it's an array, you could have another object with a query, so forth. You can refetch multiple ones depending on how your system is set up. But all we need to do is set it up like this. And I'll show you what the difference is in refetch. You're like, look at that. That was hardly any code compared to the code we had to put in for creating a new, when we created our new um, to do, we had to do this big update, complicated function call, but I'll show you the difference here. So if you pull up your network tab here, you notice we make an initial call to GraphQL to get all this to-do data. And I set it to just see the XHR requests. And this is the network tab, which they definitely added new colors or something, because this looks different. This dark theme never used to be like this, but I just noticed that today. So when we check our box, you'll notice we have something going to GraphQL. Well, so we're sending something over to GraphQL, but we're not getting a response back. We're sending this mutation over, telling GraphQL to tell the database to change this complete property of this item here. That's what's happening there. And then we create a to-do. Buy some corn, save it, and we send the new to-do to Graphql in order to have the database be updated to buy some corn, right? But we update our cache all on the client side. We update our cache all on the client side. So that's only one request. But when we're deleting something, there's two now. One to delete it, and then we go ahead and refetch the data again. So you can see over time, if you keep refetching and you have way more data than this, it's more efficient to update your cache on the client side that's located within Apollo. Less network requests, because you never know, maybe it's a mobile network or a place with bad internet. And once you start making tons and tons of requests, it could catch up with you eventually. So you have the option of managing this invisible store. And I'm just trying to think if I have the Apollo extension. Oh, I do. Let's see if that works with this version of Apollo here. I'm not sure if it does. Oh, yeah, here we go, Apollo. So we've got these Apollo dev tools, and I haven't worked with these in a while, but these are available just like the React dev tools are. So you can see the cache is located in here, and it's very similar to like a Redux store or something like that. So you see we've got everything in our cache, and these are our to-dos that we can look at here. So when we update that cache, it knows how to update the cache for us. Especially when we create a new to-do. We manually update this cache. So you can see it gets brought in with a new to-do right away. So I have to look at this again. I believe you can write your own mutations and stuff inside of these dev tools. They're pretty cool. You can definitely search through your cache. You can look at your mutations, the different ones that you send. Toggle complete. Each mutation, you can see what you're getting back. Return from mutations. You can see what you're getting back from your root query. You can see your individual to-dos. Here is just like, this is like another version, I believe, of the graphical interface. So you have your same stuff over here, like it's a version of Graphql inside of the dev tools. So you wouldn't have to hop over. You could use the dev tools as well. You can look at all your queries and mutations that you have. Well, this is a mutations log here. And you can see which variables get sent in and so forth. So there's quite a bit of stuff in the Apollo dev tools that you can use. But I'm thinking that pretty much we've got a basic app here that tracks the to-dos. You can enter new to-dos, you can delete to-dos, you can mark them done. We didn't get too fancy with styling or anything like that, but that wasn't really the point of this video. I tried to make the styling as minimal as possible. Of course, we did bring in Material UI, but I think that really benefited us because we got these nice looking icons, we got a nice looking checkbox, we got the list, we got the card, so forth and so on. So we got quite a bit out of that. And then you can style it any way from there. And of course, we learned how to wire up a whole entire GraphQL application with the new query components and mutation components. It didn't used to be like that, and I'm not sure how sold I am on it. This is the new version, and the new version is kind of sloppy. Like, it gets kind of crazy because you're bringing in these big functions and returning stuff all over the place, where you still can, in fact, used to use a higher order component called GraphQL. So you would enter in your different queries and mutations, like you'd enter in GraphQL. I didn't do that, but you'd enter in GraphQL, and then you'd enter in like get to-dos, and then if it had anything, options or whatever, you could enter in options, but that's really all you would have to do. And then you would get this.props.data get all to-dos would be your array that you could use wherever you wanted to in your code. So you would just put a higher order components at the end, and you wouldn't have these query and mutations all over the place, making your code look crazy. So I'm not completely sold on how great it is yet. I think it's a matter of choice. They leave it clear, like you can do it however you want. I mean, this is pretty convenient, but it's a lot to look at inside your code when you're trying to look at your JSX more as pseudo HTML. Adding in all these functions kind of in the middle of it all makes it a little funky. Whereas when you have the way I'm talking about with higher order components, you extract all the function, the logic, you extract the logic out of like the on-click listeners, like where we put it, and you extract it out into your methods. And all you do is map over the data using this.props. Whichever you want to call it. So in any event, that's how you use the new GraphQL React Apollo version 2. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial series, and stay tuned for more series, especially on React.